again, I mean, we how often do we talk about what the Bengals were able to do last year?
Well,
That is not an inspiring roster,
right.
and they were
I was
able to run
thinking
through
of the
the
Bengals
playoffs.
when you were saying that. We're talking to Dave Hellman, my co-host on Speak on FS1. I was thinking of the Bengals. I'm like, everyone always wants an excuse, right, for why it doesn't work for them. But the Bengals, to me, reset the clock on everybody. Like, honey, you don't need a perfect team. You don't need a perfect quarterback. There's plenty of people that don't think that Joe Burrow is the best quarterback or even in that category in the league. Now, they're wrong, but they think that. They think Mahomes, Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, like they can go on and on and on with the quarterbacks that are better than Joe Burrow. He had a terrible offensive line. He was running for his life. He took a 2-14 Bengals team to the Super Bowl. So you're telling me that was all Jamar Chase?
And we see this, you see it pretty reliably. Like, of course, the 1 and 2 seeds in any playoffs they have a leg up, right? Especially the team with home field advantage. But you see, I don't want to call them lesser teams, but wild card teams, teams that are down the seedings. I mean, I know the Bucks were loaded, but they were a wild card the year they won the Super Bowl. They got swept by a Saints team that still had Drew Brees. Maybe not Drew Brees at his peak, but still. And they went on the road in the playoffs and won a game against them and then won at Lambeau in January. Like, year after year, it's mathematically certain somebody has to string a run of wins together, right? And not all of those teams are the best team in the league. And you're right. I mean, I could sit here and give you half a dozen reasons like, oh, the Cowboys pass protection, if it could just be a little better, if they just had a better number 3 receiver. But at the end of the day, like, this is a good enough team to make noise in the playoffs. And again, I think to go back to my original point, I think that gives Cowboys fans anxiety because they know this is a good team. They know they can run the ball, they can rush the passer, and they have a pretty damn good quarterback. Like, those are 3 really important things toward making noise in the playoffs. And if they can't do it this year, and I mean, I'm not even saying Super Bowl, but like at least make some noise, win a game, maybe get to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 1996, the 95 season.
Look, obviously every team wants to win a Super Bowl, and I don't like saying it's a good season if you don't, because no one wants to hear that. And I'm about winning, so I get that. But you also have to assess where you are and what you've been. So making it to an NFC Championship game if you're the Dallas Cowboys is an unbelievable season, regardless of how it goes.
But see,
Cowboys fans don't want to hear that.
Well, I think to some degree they do. I think a lot of Cowboy fans would be happy with that. That is a sign of progress that they have not seen. But again, it's such a special fan base because of all the weird circumstances. It's a huge fan base. It's a national fan base. It's a polarizing team. If you don't love them, you hate them. And so anything short of winning the Super Bowl is going to get you clowned on. That's just what it is.
No,
it's what and it doesn't matter. They could let's say they get to the NFC title game and they lose a classic at the gun. You think anybody's going to give Cowboy fans any grace?
I don't know. Look,
not very many.
People who hate Cowboys fans and the Cowboys won't, but I think that would be unreasonable.
It would be.
Like a great
It would be unreasonable, but it won't stop it from happening.
No, correct, because we are an unreasonable people, sports fans. We don't make any sense.
Right.
But I would give the Cowboys a lot of credit if they had a great game in the NFC Championship game and lost to a better opponent.
Sure.
Like, okay, that's a great season. I actually even think that Jerry would be happy with that. So
I think so too.
Who do you feel most confident in, Dave, in the NFC? Because obviously you have to put together those wins to get to the Super Bowl. We won't predict the Super Bowl because whatever. We'll get there when we get there. There's no fun in that. Right now, everyone's a little injured. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I hate that question.
Well, because everybody, like you look
I really do.
I know, but I'm asking it anyway. You look at each team in the NFC playoffs right now, just assuming we go chalk and nothing weird happens. Everybody has a question mark. Like Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts is banged up. Lane Johnson is banged up. They have other injuries as well. Minnesota is just weird.
They're the weirdest team in the league.
Weirdest team in the league. Great record, but weird. San Francisco has a 7th-round rookie playing quarterback, albeit doing an amazing job, but we aren't in the postseason yet. I mean, Tampa. It's been almost 3 decades of pure disappointment for the Cowboys.
Yes.
Yes. And yet still, every year, I am berated into admitting that the Cowboys are somehow Super Bowl contenders. Now, this year, I will admit, feels a little bit different, and that is because of the defense. But the way that the Cowboys are playing right now, particularly the Cowboys defense, is that, am I riding on their reputation from earlier this season?
I mean, I think that's the central focal point of where the Cowboys are, and I think Cowboy fans are a little bit on edge. And you're not the first person that has told me this team feels different. And I laugh and I think back to last year when I thought that team felt different. And a big part of that was their defense. They led the league in takeaways. Trayvon Diggs had 11 interceptions. They reliably got the ball back to their offense. And they lost in the first game of the playoffs to the San Francisco 49ers at home. So I laugh because it's just like, and look, I've covered this team for 10 years. And at some point there's like a hamster wheel effect where you're just like, man, we are running a lot and not going anywhere. Like the Cowboys are not achieving milestones beyond the divisional round of the playoffs if they even get that far. And so I think that is where the anxiety comes in. I think that's why Cowboy fans are a little defensive right now, is that this is a really good team. What, they've won 11 games? They've already locked up their playoff spot weeks ahead of the end of the season for the second year in a row, which was never really a thing for them in the Jason Garrett era. And so Cowboy fans want to believe, of course they do. They want to believe this team is different. There's a lot of evidence that suggests that it is. They're a little bit banged up. They haven't gotten after the quarterback as successfully as they had earlier in the season. The last month or so, the sacks haven't been coming at quite the same rate. A lot of that is injuries. The secondary is injured. And then obviously, regardless of whose fault it is, the offense consistently has a turnover problem. That's just facts. We can blame Dak. We don't have to blame Dak. You know how I feel. You do a show with me every day. But the point is like, this is a good team, but there's a lot of evidence that suggests that they play the type of football that might bite them in the playoffs. And so I think Cowboy fans are just very, very anxious right now, thinking like, are we going to do this again? Are we going to have a team that's capable of winning 11 and 12 games and not make any noise in the playoffs? Because that's what it's all about.
Well, you and I joke about the Cowboys juice because I was with you on the Cowboys last year. Despite what Twitter will tell you, I am a huge Dak defender and Dak fan. As Alex brought up when we were in the break, I advocated for Dak to get paid the entire time, mostly because I thought it was outrageous, this idea that Dak shouldn't be paid when he did all that he did for the Cowboys. Like, oh, well, if we paid Dak, we're not going to have players around. What? Why is that my problem? I'm a fourth-round draft pick. Look what I've done for on that salary. If you couldn't put players around me then, what do I care that if I get paid, you can't put players around me? Then you can't figure it out. Like, that's how that works. I'm glad Dak got paid. I thought he should have been paid before Zeke. And I think that you can win a Super Bowl with Dak. My question with the Cowboys is, and this is where I got last year when I was with you, thinking that they were able to make a run, and it was a disappointing exit in the most disastrous way possible from the playoffs, is what do they actually need to make a run? Because it feels like they have everything. They have a quarterback capable of winning a Super Bowl. I know everyone bangs on their skill positions. I don't think that their receivers are that bad. I think CeeDee Lamb is fully capable. They clearly have a running game that is top in the league. They have a defense. They have a Super Bowl winning coach. What is this mysterious amoeba that keeps the Cowboys from winning?
That's a really good question. And I think you make a good point. I mean, I could sit here. I don't think the Cowboys' skill players are as good as they could be, specifically in the passing game. I think.
Sure, they should have kept Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, I could do a whole show on that. I think I've been banging that drum since they traded him. And so, I mean, there are things you can identify, right? Like, especially especially with the injuries they're suffering right now. The cornerback position outside of Trayvon Diggs really doesn't look inspiring. The flip side of that is everybody in the league feels that way. Like every playoff team is like, damn, like we're just catching some bad luck right now. We got the wrong injuries. We don't have the right guy. So to your point, I think there are ways the Cowboys could improve